It into Bynum, back out Bryant, shot clock at 7. Bryant leads, falling away, puts it in! And the Lakers take a 1-point lead with 7 points.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another AP Sports video today. Today I'm going to be doing another mock draft. This time it's going to be with trades. So let me know what y'all think. Some of these trades are a little out there, but I just feel like doing kind of as many trades as possible. So yeah, I'm going to get right into it. So this is going to be kind of similar to my other mock draft with some teams taking the same guys. So just bear with me on some of those picks and I'll try and be brief. But at number 1, I've got Cade Cunningham to the Pistons. Now this is a pick that I don't think they should question at all. He's the best player in this draft, I believe. He's only working out for the one team, that is the Pistons. He will be taken with the number 1 overall pick. He's got shades of Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. He's built to be an all-star player in this league, and I would not doubt it if he is one. Up next at number 2, you have the Houston Rockets. Now, this is a pick that I believe they should take Evan Mobley just because he's the second best player available. But many people believe Jalen Green is, and he could be more acclimated to be in this league just because he is a guard and he is a great scoring guard. Scoring guards right now are the players that run the league, not necessarily big men. So I understand this pick. Jalen Green is a guy that's drawn comparisons to Zach LaVine because he can do a little bit of everything with incredible bounce at the rim. So you have to guard him on the three-point line while he can also be going backdoor for a lob, which is very impressive, especially as, you know, with him being such a great scorer from the three-point line, shooting, I believe it was 37% in the G League, where he's already at NBA range. So then at number 3 of the Cavs, Evan Mobley should not fall any farther than this. I believe that he has number 1 pick potential in several drafts over the last 5 or 6 years. He's a fantastic player, and he does a great job getting blocks. He does a great job offensively. He's got good touch around the rim and is just generally a smart offensive player. He's shown flashes of having a good jump shot in the future. His free throw percentage, as well as his touch around the rim, bodes well for having a good shot later in his career. And he also, in high school, played a little bit of point guard, so he has a pretty good handle for a guy his size. And maybe at some point in his career, you see him as, you know, a coveted point forward or even point center, maybe a little bit like Jokic. He does need to put on a little bit of weight, I would say, but that's going to be similar to a lot of these other NBA guys, just because, or some of these other guys coming into the NBA, just because, you know, they're going to be a little bit younger. So at the number 4 overall pick, this is another one that's not changing for my mock draft. Number 1, this is Jalen Suggs to the Raptors. I just believe that he brings, you know, all of the intangibles that you're going to want on a good team. I feel like Toronto understands that. They've had Kyle Lowry there for so many years, and I believe Jalen Suggs brings that same sort of mentality as a leader and just a guy that's been an athlete in several different environments, whether it's football field or basketball. He clearly has good vision because he played quarterback, so that's helped him a lot as a point guard. And the 4th overall pick is a decent place for Jalen Suggs. I don't believe he should go any of the other guys at top 3, but I think he's better than the guy at number 5 for sure. So I think there are tiers to this, 1 through 3. 4, I believe, is on its kind of own tier with Jalen Suggs, and then there's all the guys after that. I think, you know, you could argue we're kind of similar tier-wise. But Jalen Suggs, great intangibles. He's shown potential on his jump shot. He's good driving to the rim. He's relatively physical. He's a guy that's going to make winning plays, similar to Kyle Lowry, who's a free agent this offseason for the Toronto Raptors. Up next, we've got the Orlando Magic selecting at number 5 overall. Now, I looked at this lottery, and they almost had 3 picks in this lottery, but I ended up trading the 10th overall pick to another team. There's the dog, if you didn't hear him. But they picked Jonathan Kuminga at 5. Another pick that's not changing. He's just a very raw player. He's a project guy, but the Magic have nothing but time, and they're clearly going into a rebuild. Kuminga's measurables are incredible, though. He's incredibly long. He's incredibly quick. He can jump super high. He's basically everything athletically that you would want in a basketball player. And this bodes really well for the current stage of the NBA, where he can switch on to guards, he can switch on to forwards. He's going to be a very switchable player, and reminds me a lot, actually, of another guy on the Magic, Jonathan Isaac. Would not be shocked if they take this number 5 overall pick and then move Jonathan Isaac. I was initially going to have him going to the Pelicans at 10th overall for a trade, but I don't think they're going to want 3 picks in this first 14 picks of the draft. So that seemed a bit unrealistic for the Magic to trade him to the Pelicans, but he will be traded at some point, I believe. Fantastic player, but he's dealt with injuries, and his stint with the Magic just hasn't really worked out all that well, and I believe Kuminga's too similar of a player and too good of a player, at least potential-wise, to pass up on. So then you got a number 6. Another guy that's the exact same, Scottie Barnes. He's drawn the Draymond Green comparison like I mentioned. in my previous video. He's not going to wow you shooting the ball, but he's an incredible player in the post. He always makes the right decision. He played a little bit of point guard at 6'9", which is very, very impressive. He comes from Florida State, so whatever they're doing in Florida State is incredible because the length that they have on that team every year, it feels like, is crazy with Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell, Jonathan Isaac, and now you've got Scotty Barnes as well. So I think that's who the Thunder take. His upside, I don't believe, is quite as high as some of these other guys, but if the Thunder are trying to build a championship team like they are, I believe, with all of the draft picks they have, I think that he eventually will become, in his career, a great leader and can hopefully lead some of these other guys that the Thunder have in these first-round picks in like the next 8 years. It's incredible the amount of picks they have. So hopefully he can be a guy that can at least be a steady defensive presence for some of these younger guys who typically struggle on the defensive end. At number 7, this is where the first trade comes in. The Golden State Warriors will be trading the 7th overall pick, the 14th pick, James Wiseman, and, well, frankly, maybe some other stuff, for Ben Simmons. So the 76ers end up with the 7th overall pick. I believe Ben Simmons would be a great fit on the Warriors. He can play the 4 when Clay and Curry are in the game, and then when they are out, he can run the bench unit at point guard. He's an incredibly versatile player. He can play as a point guard. His shot is not quite there, but I do believe that's something that he's going to overcome this offseason, hopefully. There's obviously been a lot of pressure on him to figure out his jump shot, so I'm really hoping that is the case with him this offseason, and he does that. But the Sixers get to kind of hit the restart button here and figure out some other pieces around Embiid. They have a big hole at point guard, and in the playoffs, they clearly lack the guy that can create. And so I have them taking James Bouknight at number 7 overall. Now, Bouknight is one of the biggest risers on my board, at least since I've started doing some draft research. Now, I believe it's kind of unfair to Bouknight to look at the back half of the season just because he was dealing with an injury. But his first half of the season was incredible. He's a good scorer at all 3 levels, and he really just is a great scorer. Like, there's no two ways about it. He's an incredible scorer, and that's what the Sixers need. He can get his own shot. He's good at cutting off the ball. You lose a guard like Ben Simmons, but you get one that can score at all 3 levels, and I believe one that's, not going to be phased by the NBA game. He's really long at 6'5" for a point guard. He can play a little bit of shooting guard too, I believe. And if the Sixers feel like Tyrese Maxey's that next guy up in the starting lineup, that's fine, because then he can come off the bench and still be an incredible scorer. So I think that's who the Sixers would go with if they had 7th overall pick. That would have to be a trade with the Warriors. And so I don't believe the Warriors will be picking at 7 or 14 in this draft. It's just whether that pick goes to the Sixers. I looked at the Raptors for a little bit in a potential Siakam trade. So the Warriors could go a lot of ways with it, but I believe Ben Simmons is the highest upside guy on this team for the Warriors, so I went with him. Then you look at number 8. The Magic are going to retain this pick. They go Keon Johnson. They're going full rebuild. This is another guy with insane measurables. He played guard at Tennessee. I believe he had a 48-inch vertical, which is just insane. He's shown potential with his jump shot too, which is something that's really promising. His jump shot's not fantastic. He's relatively raw as a player, just like Kuminga. Keon showed a little bit more progress than I think Kuminga maybe has. Both have crazy potential defensively. Both have crazy potential offensively. I think that's a good pick, and if the Magic player development can get a little bit better, I think that could end up being a great pick, especially he doesn't have to be thrown into the fire immediately because they have other guys like R.J. Hampton, Cole Anthony, and others, even Markelle Fultz, to hold down that backcourt. Hopefully Markelle is healthier this year. At number 9, Kings are going to keep this pick. They're going to try and stay young but still compete, so I think they're going to take the guy who I believe is going to have a massive impact immediately. That is Moses Moody. He is a 3-and-D plus player, so he's immediately going to come in and impact the game with his 3-point shooting and his defense. I also believe that he's a very physical player and can do really well driving to the basket and get calls. At Arkansas, he was incredibly big and physical. So I would not be shocked if he does more than just 3-and-D like most people say. That's why I throw the plus in there. I don't believe that he's going to be able to necessarily create his own jump shot just because he doesn't have a great handle. But I don't think that's what he's going to be asked to do, especially from day one. And I think Harrison Barnes is a really good player to learn from for him. So number 10, this pick is originally the New Orleans Pelicans pick. I believe this pick will be traded. I don't know who. There are a couple of teams that I thought about. One would be the Mavericks would trade Maxi Kleber, and the Pelicans would trade away Eric Bledsoe in the 10th overall pick. Malcolm Brogdon Eric Bledsoe, 10th overall pick. Jonathan Isaac, Eric Bledsoe, 10th overall pick. So basically the Pelicans are just trying to get rid of Eric Bledsoe with this 10th overall pick, which this 10th overall pick is very valuable. I believe the Pelicans could use Davion Mitchell, but I have the Pacers taking Davion Mitchell. He's an incredibly versatile guard, can score all 3 levels. He is a bit smaller at 6'2", but you would not be able to tell on defense because he is an incredible defender. He can even play a little bit on 2 guards just because of his intensity and size. He might be a little bit smaller, but he definitely is not weak whatsoever. He can really get up into defenders or up into offensive players and was one of the better defenders in college basketball, really. His nickname is Off Night, which is kind of a cool nickname because every time you're going against him, you're going to have an off night, basically. He's also a great three-point shooter. Shot about, I think, above 40% this year. And he's got that DNA, for championships. He won championship this year at Baylor. He's a really, really high upside pick. Plus, the Pacers don't have to sacrifice developing him too much because he is 22 years old. So that's a great pick from the Pacers. I believe he's going to be a very good NBA player. So if I'm a Pacers fan, I'm excited. All right, the Hornets. I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter because I did have them in my original mock draft video taking this same player. That is Kai Jones. I just believe Kai Jones is too much of a perfect fit, frankly, for the Hornets to pass up on. He's going to be a little bit weaker, so it might take a little bit to develop him, but I believe that a pick and roll with he and LaMelo Ball would be very, very, very good. LaMelo Ball this year has thrown tons of lobs, and that's something that Cody Zeller does not necessarily excel at. Kai Jones will excel at that. His vertical's crazy. He's very tall, very athletic, center from Texas. I really like him blocking shots around the rim too, and he just has a lot of potential, frankly. He reminds me of Jackson Hayes coming out of Texas. But I believe Kai Jones can be able to make a bigger impact immediately just because they do have LaMelo Ball at point guard who throws lots of those lobs. And so now we're going to look at the 12th overall pick. Once again, same pick I had at first for the Spurs. That is Alperen Sengun. Fantastic player, MVP of his league. It's really hard to get a guy that's an MVP of his league like this late in the that's just an incredible pick. I know it was a Turkish league, so it's not necessarily like the greatest league in the world, but if he's like essentially a kid winning MVP in a league with adults, that's super impressive. Plus, I believe he's going to be fantastic in the paint immediately. His footwork is incredible. In the paint specifically, he can go over each shoulder with hook shots. But I have seen him in some workout videos, and it does look like he has a little bit of range. Now, I've seen Ben Simmons at a 3 in a workout video, so that could mean nothing. But he does have really good touch around the rim, so it wouldn't shock me if he's able to develop a shot later in his career. And he just kind of feels like a Popovich guy. He always plays relatively, smart, and the ball doesn't always stick with him. I will say at times he can get a little stubborn with the ball. But he's got really, really great post moves, and I'm really high on him. The Pacers at 13 again are picking. 3 picks after they selected Davion Mitchell, they're going to go Jalen Johnson. He's a forward out of Duke, although there are some questions, I will say, with what he's doing as a player because he's left his high school team, he's left his college team, so there are definitely some character concerns, I would say. I don't know if that necessarily reflects on his character per se, but there are concerns with commitment for sure, and committing to a school and committing to a team. Now, I'm not necessarily going to hold that against him quite as much as I guess I could, just because I'm not interviewing him. I don't know what's going on with those teams, but I'm sure NBA scouts are doing their due diligence. But if that's not an issue necessarily for these scouts, he is an incredible player with incredibly high upside. He was honestly very good at Duke. Duke didn't necessarily have the record they wanted this year, but statistically he looked pretty good. I mean, I'm more of a March Madness guy, so I didn't get to watch a ton of him. His highlights are obviously going to be good, so that was about the extent I saw of him. I was really a big fan of his game. I do think it's going to be relatively transition reliant. He didn't look like he can really get to the basket quite as much in the half court. I think he's going to have to tighten up his handle a little bit. But he's power forward, and he's incredibly athletic, so that's always going to bode well. I think he's going to be relatively switchable on the defensive end. It's the only question is his commitment to the team and his commitment maybe even to the defensive end of the basketball game. So the Sixers, again, are at number 14. Now, this playoffs, they did not shoot well from 3 outside of Seth Curry, I believe. He was about the only guy hitting threes, I feel like, for them. So they're going to take another guy that can make shots, and Corey Kispert. Corey's a guy that I really like in this draft. I he doesn't have the upside that some of these other guys do, but the Sixers could have very, very easily been in the Eastern Conference Finals this year, even with Ben Simmons playing so poorly. They took the Hawks to 7 games, and even the Hawks upset them, so they were projected to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is a team that doesn't need a whole lot of youth and doesn't need to develop a ton of players. This is a team that needs guys that are going to make an impact now. Corey Kispert's that guy. He's improved every year at Gonzaga, and he's an incredible shooter and has really shown the ability to score the ball in just more ways than one. And he really has improved defensively. He's gotten a lot bigger and stronger at Gonzaga. So I'm a big fan of this pick for the Sixers. I don't know if he necessarily fits on some of these other teams that are looking for some more guys with potential. But yeah, that's going to be my mock draft with trades. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know if there's some more trades. I've heard some rumblings about the number 1 pick being wanted to be traded. Heard some rumblings about the Thunder moving up, moving back. It's hard for me to keep them at number 6, but they were just too many trades for them to move up, move back. It's really hard for me to know what the Thunder are going to do because they're always just searching for more and more picks. So it's hard for me to imagine them giving up a pick. And yeah, that's kind of what I felt like about this draft. So let me know what y'all think. The trades for this draft were the Raptors traded the Raptors did not trade Siakam to the Warriors. The Sixers traded Ben Simmons to the Warriors. The Raptors trading Siakam to the Warriors was another potential one I thought of. The Pelicans, they had a couple options at number 10. I had them trading for Jonathan Isaac at one point, Malcolm Brogdon at one point, Maxi Kleber at one point. So yeah. It ended up being the Pacers that were aggressive and the Sixers that were aggressive in this mock draft with trades. So let me know what y'all think. Thanks so much for watching, and peace.